Okay, today we are taking a look at strategic facility planning. Strategic facility planning. For those who have some experience in facility management, you'll find that the experience will mostly be around implementing day-to-day facility management activities, such as responses to calls and requests, supply and fixing of things, supply of consumables and fixing of things that go bad. Many of us are also at that point where we can now have a planned maintenance program where we know what needs to be kept in order or maintained from time to time throughout the facilities, throughout the life cycle of the facilities that we manage. Now, but all of those things that we currently have as our FM activities today represents how FM is done, represents what is done as facility management. So all of those considerations
There's one I bought.
around,
I just bought some few.
all of those considerations around facility activities that have to do with rosters, beat planning, staff schedules, repair works, programs, and so on and so forth. They are all being done at the bottom level of facility management. Now, they are all supposed to be anchored on certain higher level considerations, certain things that have been talked about at higher levels and become the yardstick or guiding system, like the rails that guide what we do at the bottom. Those are called strategies. Strategies are the artful means by which we arrive at certain vision or goal. And they are long-term plans. Just the way you have short-term plans for today's work, for this year's work, that's how strategies are plans for long-term work related output or visions or goals to achieve. Why are we talking about strategic facility planning to facility managers? You cannot do what and how properly if you do not know why. You cannot do what and how properly if you do not know why. Strategy is at a higher level and it answers the question why. So in today's lesson, we're going to start by looking at the big picture. The big picture is the one that takes us away from where we are typically as facility managers at the facility management execution level and takes us all the way up to the strategic purpose level of an organization. The strategic purpose level of an organization is the level at which the customer base is defined. That's who is our customers, who do we exist to serve? Why do they choose us? What do we offer to them? If you reverse that question, what do they need done that requires us to be the one to help them, to save them from that stress, or to help them achieve whatever that is. So in essence, we exist because of our customers. And for everything that we do, it must be because the customers are in need of something that we want to serve them a solution, either a need or a problem that needs to be satisfied, a need that needs to be fulfilled, or just whatever. The bottom line is our customers are the reasons for our existence as an organization. This is at the highest level. So think about it. If you are an internal staff recruited to man the facility management function, you need to know exactly why your organization exists, whether it's a public sector organization, a private sector organization, a profit or non-profit organization, whatever category of organization it is, it exists to serve a certain public. You must understand who they are, what they need, how your organization is serving them that need or solving that, meeting that requirements or expectations of the customer. This is so far removed from where you are right now as an FM executing diesel generator maintenance, cutting grass, cleaning the offices. This is very far removed from that, because these are the first set of levels that establishes why you do what you do, why your role even exists in the first place. So when we talk about facility management being the strategic enabler of the organization's success, how can you be the strategic enabler of the organization's success if you don't even know why the organization exists, who are its customers, what services does the organization deliver at a core? Because it is your business in the non-core support services, internal services, procurement services, corporate services, whatever we call facility management in your organization. It is our business to ensure that the core business succeeds. And for the core business to succeed, for us to help the core business succeed, we must understand what the core business is trying to achieve. And that brings us to the second level of the big picture, the strategic map, where you see the strategic planning level. This is what we call the corporate strategy level. At this level, the entire organization is coming together to craft a vision to deliver something that is perceived in a certain way, acceptable to, and paid for by the customers. So, I mean, paid for doesn't mean you have to be profit-oriented or not. Even public service service provision requires that the public that they are supposed to be providing that service to are actually subscribed to the service, otherwise it will be useless. So in essence, the entire organization creates a corporate strategy. They set up their mission, they set up their vision, they set up their values, set up their culture, and come up with certain strategic objectives. What are they trying to do? They're trying to respond to the customer. They're trying to deliver something to the customer. So what then is a vision and what is a mission? A vision is your end point, your end goal, where you as an organization, the entire organization, want to be, how you want to be perceived by your customers and all other stakeholders. That's your vision. So big, high-level goals make up your vision. These are very, very high level. Your mission is a definition or an outline of how you intend to achieve your vision. Your mission is often the milestones that must be achieved on your way to accomplishing your vision. So while the vision is more like an endpoint, a noun of that destination, your mission is often a verb. We will, right? You want to do ABC, right? It can be specific as much as possible in expressing what you want to do. Now, what you do should be in line with the vision you have set. What that means is that what you do or what you set as your mission should be driving you towards your vision. And then values are the principles we espouse as our way of doing things. So on our way to the vision, we use the mission. And the mission as milestones, attainments that will lead us to the vision is done through a certain set of behaviors that we deliberately choose and say we're going to behave in this way on our path through the execution of our mission towards the accomplishment of our vision. That is what we write down. That is the way we will behave towards ABC, or in that respect. Those are our values. So you hear things like integrity, like customer service, customer focus, things like friendliness, things like positivity, they come up as values. We write them down, we agree, we sign up to work in this particular way. And then there is this thing called culture. Corporate culture is often not that thing we wrote down as the principles that guides us. What we wrote down as the principles that guide us is our values. That's what the whole world sees. Our culture is what we actually are, how we actually behave. If our behavior is much aligned with our stated values, we call that a positive culture. If our behavior is very divergent from our stated values, then we call that a negative or toxic culture, right? But on that path of achieving your mission, your vision, going through your mission, you have to break the mission down again into strategic objectives. Your vision and mission, your values could be set once and for all, depending on the entrepreneur, the founder, the head at the time, the president, chairman, whoever, right? But the strategic objectives that helps you to achieve those mission milestones are things that will constantly be reviewed. Even though you set up 5-year strategic objectives, 3-year strategic objectives, on a yearly basis, you need to check again. Are the objectives we set helping us accomplish or helping us move as indicated by our mission? Is it drawing us close to our end goal as stated in our vision? Okay, so this is at the corporate level. Once this is done as a company, I mean, there are so many means or ways of knowing what your company's corporate strategy is. Your annual plan, your annual report, financial report, for example, all those, especially those notes section of it, what your organization is publishing online, decision taken by senior management in terms of who to recruit, where to locate people. It gives a lot of sense as to what the organization's corporate strategy is, even if it's not clearly stated, right? But it's ideal to have your corporate strategy, clearly stated, because that becomes the guidepost to all the other levels we'll be dealing with. Take the business unit strategic planning level. You can't create a business unit strategic plan without fully understanding corporate strategy. Every business unit to create a plan. Now, while all other business units will have to have a single alignment, a single point of pool of information or anchoring or authority for their strategic plans, which is the corporate strategy, the facility management as a business unit now requires to be doubly aligned. You need to be aligned to corporate strategy. You need to also be aligned to the strategies of each of the business units that exist in your organization. Now, this is not supposed to be difficult to understand, right? But it's very difficult in practice. Now, Those other business units are in the core business of ensuring that corporate strategy is implemented and corporate strategy achieves all of these set strategic objectives. That's what they are, right? As facility managers, we want to enable the achievement of those corporate strategic objectives. So we understand that of the corporates, and then we need to also understand that of the various business units so that we can create a facility strategic plan or outputs that directly feeds the business units the resources, spaces, the services they need to deliver, while also using our understanding of the corporate strategy in all our plans long term. So facility managers will now produce a strategic facility plan. A strategic facility plan is a replication of corporate strategy, but this time purely what the facility management business unit will do to understand, implement actions, and support the attainment of corporate strategy. That's why you need to be close to the other business unit, HR, account, finance, and project management and operations and administration and manufacturing and so on and so forth. You need to be able to understand their own strategy, especially how their strategy adds to the corporate strategy. And your job is to ensure that they succeed. Because in essence, if you are not doing your job well, they can't succeed, no matter what strategies they put in place. That's the business unit strategic planning level. At the tactical planning level, you have moved away from strategy. You are dealing with things like the budget for 1 year, design and construction for a certain renovation or repair work, a maintenance plan that has the schedule of all your assets and the maintenance activities with frequency, cost, and schedule for each of the maintenance activities. And then your operations plan, your big plan, your schedule for rosters, your inspections plan, your risk assessment and risk management plans all come in here. At the point of tactical planning, you already have a strategic facility plan. So everything you are doing, whether it's budget you're creating, whether it's design construction plans you are creating, you are only responding to what you have created in your strategic facility plan. In essence, your strategic facility plan is the anchor on which all of these technical planning activities take place. So think about how your career could have been different, right? If you spent a lot of time understanding strategy, how the outputs you get, how the approvals you get, how the perception of the value of your work would have increased tremendously if only you had a strategic plan that management sees, accepts, and signs up to. When it's time to execute, you'll be getting approved, approved, approved. Because even after you have a budget in place, you're not just going to wake up the next year and all of a sudden all that money is put in your account for you to start spending. No, you still need to make specific requests at different time intervals to get management to approve the funds that were already approved in the budget. This time it's funds release, right? Now, this is another level of scrutiny of that budget, of that strategic facility plan. In essence, if your strategic facility plan is good, when you create a budget, the budget is helping you to implement that strategic facility plan. Same with design and construction plan. All of these are done at the planning, tactical planning level. At the execution level, you're basically implementing what you plan. Oh, we're going to have 3 contracts, 1 contract for this, 1 contract for that, 1 contract for this. Fine. We have the SLAs developed. When they come in, they're supposed to give us their safe of matter statement, give us their other documentation for the work they've come to do. It's fine. We do all of those at the execution level, and then we measure performance at the measurement level, which is basically report, report, report. Everything you do in FM, there must be an entry into your regular report. And then the sixth level is the measurement level. The measurement level is a level where you take all of these reports and you compare them to what you set out to achieve, right? You take your report, you trend it, you compare it to what you had set out to achieve. Then, because you now have done this comparison, you are now validating strategy. You're basically asking yourself, do I understand corporate strategy if I came down here to the business unit strategic planning level? My interpretation of the corporate strategy might be very, very divergent, might be very, very wrong. Because I have seen the results I'm getting now. After I've gone through the tactical planning, I've done the execution, I've now measured the performance, and I see that I'm way off the trajectory in arriving at my strategic objective, because that's the minimum I need to deliver the strategic planning level. So if that is the case, what do I do? Do I adjust my strategy? Do I change my strategy? What components in my strategic facility plan do I need to tweak so that my outcome, when I do my next performance measurement, I can validate that the strategy I've adopted is correct? In some cases, it is not anything wrong with the strategy. It's about tactical planning. My budgets had mix of CAPEX and OPEX. I know I'm going to have a problem. I started the construction work because I got approval without doing proper design work or without getting the as-built drawings of the former structure before I did some demolitions and repairs, right? And so on and so forth. So in essence, if it's tactical planning that I failed at, what do? I first agree that my strategy is okay. Now I need to change my tactical plans. Do I need to move from in-house to external contractors? Do I need to employ new hands or you fire some? Do I need to provide training for people? Do I need to be more explicit in my budgeting so that management knows that it's not all inclusive? There are certain costs that are not captured in there. All of these things I'm doing to validate strategy, so that if strategy is right and tactical plans is wrong, I change at this level. So, ladies and gentlemen, the lesson here is that facility managers should not bury their heads in the sand of operations, maintenance, budget, design, and construction plans. We are supposed to operate starting with the understanding of the customer, understanding of the corporate strategy, adoption of the corporate strategy, and fine-tuning it exactly to what I, as a facility management department, will deliver. And that is your strategic facility plan. You also have the portfolio plan. The strategic facility plan is your portfolio plan. Your facility master plan or your real estate master plan is a single campus plan. It's one site, one long-term plan for one location. The big picture is very important. I always encourage you to take your time to study it so that you can understand where we're coming from when it comes to proactive versus reactive facility management. So what is this strategic facility plan? The facility management organization envisions its future by linking its purpose to the strategy of the overall organization and then developing goals, objectives, and action plans to achieve that future. That's just basically it. You do it by going through this PDCA cycle. You understand, you analyze, you plan, and you act. You have to understand the corporate strategy, the mission, the vision, the value, financial performance, customer knowledge, that business process, and learning and growth. Everything is encapsulated in you understanding how your business runs, understanding the business model, understanding the financial flow, the stream, the cash stream your organization goes through, and so on and so forth. Analysis. Use analytical techniques such as SWOT, scan, scenario planning, and so many more to explore the range of possible futures and the triggers used to analyze the organization's facility needs. If you are doing this, you're basically using these tools to analyze scenarios, to analyze, because strategy is an artful means to arrive at a destination or to achieve a stated goal. You are trying to get somewhere, right? And as you're trying to get somewhere, you must continually analyze both your internal features and constitution and your external influences. And that's why we'll look at SWOT. We'll have more time to look at it in a bit. But while you are doing, the reason you are doing analysis is to be sure that you can make sense out of the data you've acquired during understanding. And then you move into planning, where you develop plans that meet the long-range needs of the organization, review that plan annually, and then further update the plan periodically. And then, of course, you take action as planned and deliver the results that you have promised to your management. Understanding basically is there are two sides to it. Understand your facilities. Who are my customers? What kind of assets do I have? How big, how small, what are the dimensions? Basically having your asset register and your view drawings. And putting all the information in your asset register and your view drawings in your head as a master of that facility. In-depth analysis of your existing facilities. And then affordable, achievable plan to meet the organization's needs. Because at this point of understanding, by the time you start doing those analyses we'll talk about, you see where there is divergence. And you begin to tell yourself, what kind of plan should I put in place to meet the organization's needs, right? And then this is where you must spend time understanding how your organization actually makes money, how it spends money, what are the major drivers of success for your organization. So you must have data on ownership data, building assessments, square footage, socialization standards, and local characteristics. Business goals of the business units, of course, you want to know whether they are expanding or contracting, and you want to also know how they want their spaces served. And then, because you have your ears to the ground, you're supposed to also anticipate future expected services that will be required to respond to changes in the corporate nomenclature and corporate activities. If more people are coming in, it means you provide more spaces and more services. If people are going to be dropping off, you start thinking of how to wrap your head around how to save the money of the space that people are going to be abandoning soon, right? And then, of course, be able to predict. If you are able to perfectly predict how your organization will grow or shrink over the next few years, you will not be caught wanting in any way. You'll be seen as one who confidently understands his organization. And then you have to be able to create certain scenarios, potential external and internal changes that might influence the organization. When you create those scenarios, for each potential change, it's called the best case, the worst case, and the most likely. Suggest potential strategies in each of the three scenarios to respond to each change, and then propose strategies that must be addressed in order to respond to possible external changes. And then you begin to select the most likely external changes to affect the organization over the next 3 to 5 years. And then you begin to put plans in place, make them reflective of what you are planning in your strategic planning. And then there is systematic layout plan. This is part of analysis. This is just a process of creating spreadsheet upon spreadsheet where you put in data of your assets, data of your maintenance schedule or plan, square footage spreadsheet, block plans, layout. He has built drawings how floors are stacked up on each other. And then where each equipment is located. So basically, if you are working on a special environment where you are pinpointing things and marking them out, or a spreadsheet where data is captured, you are doing systematic layout planning. We talked about strengths, weaknesses, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Strengths are positive internal features. Positive internal features. Weaknesses are negative internal features. But the external features under opportunities is what you can take advantage of from your surroundings, from your communities, from your environment, so opportunities are external. They are the positive external features. And then threats. These are your negative external. So as facility managers, we must have our own developed SWOT analysis for organization. It also helps us to develop our own facility management department SWOT analysis, so that this becomes what helps us to decide whether we are moving in the direction of the goal or we are not. And then planning. Document the primary objectives to be addressed, which is setting the gap. Evaluate site zoning, costs, labor, competition, and all factors critical for success. Conduct financial and risk analysis to focus on finding the maximum value. Develop alternatives with recommendations and priorities. Develop a process for marketing the recommended strategic facility plan to gain management approval. In fact, if you create a strategy and management does not approve it, it is not yet a strategy, because it has to be adopted as a strategy from your business units. And before they can accept it and approve it as a strategy that is relevant, to the organization's success of a business unit, they will have to check for alignment. And then obtain financial and other approvals needed to launch the action phase. And then you have the outputs, which is your facility plan, the strategic facility plan, which is your overall policy document that governs all decisions regarding facility management. Then you have the master plan, which is long-term design or site plan for a particular site. So the master plan is actually under the strategic facility plan. The master plan is a plan for implementing the strategic facility plan in one location. And because location to location will be different, while the strategic facility plan is a portfolio-wide coverage, anytime you are coming to buy or build on behalf of us, this is our guidebook. That's what the strategic facility plan is. The master plan then becomes your interpretation of that strategic facility plan for one location. So you could have a sprawling estate in Benin that you can build, bungalow style buildings left and right, and put canopies between people for walking, or put bicycles around for transportation, right? That might serve the same purpose, answer the same questions, fulfill the requirement of a strategic facility plan when compared to a high-rise built in Victoria Island. The instructions will be the same in terms of principles, in terms of metrics that must be achieved. And so as at the time you are developing the master plan, you are going to be using the strategic facility plan as your checklist, your guidance to be sure you have done the master plan correctly. And then you have the annual facility plan. This is where you have your budgets and your project plans. So look at these two lists of items that make up the strategic facility plan and the facility master plan. Under the strategic facility plan, you have a statement of facilities objectives, your risk analysis of options, sustainability analysis. That's a very broad part of the strategic facility plan. Sources and uses of funds. If you have other sources of funds beyond management release funds, indicate all of the sources as well. Operating expenses analysis, return on investment, net present value, internal rate of returns, and payback metric period analysis. These are all financial metrics that we must become familiar with. Life cycle cost analysis, cost benefits analysis, and rating of alternatives, recommendations with clearly stated assumptions. These are all in the strategic facility planning column. Now, let's now go to a particular site to develop its facility master plan. The strategic facility plan is the overriding plan that governs all locations. All teams must know what the strategic facility plan is. By the time you get to a particular site to develop, you now know things like the zoning regulation, covenant assessments, space standards and benchmarks description, program of space use, workflow analysis, engineering assessment, and plan. All you are doing here basically is trying to fit the required amount of space, required amount of services clearly defined into that site. And in some cases, you have that site requiring several years to develop, but you want to move in now, right? The whole idea here is to have a master plan. This is how this facility will look eventually. Okay. So that's why the master plan is subordinated to the strategic facility plan. It's always, always, always taking its anchor from the strategic facility plan. So once you're done with that phase, you get to the acting phase. Implementation of an SFP typically requires the development of a specific project or projects to deliver. So in essence, you're either creating a new space or you're altering an existing space or generally reconfiguring the space by renovation and the rest. We'll take a break now, and after we'll typically go through this cycle of development. The first stage in the facility development cycle is the planning stage. This is where you decide that there is a problem that needs to be solved, there's a need that needs to be satisfied, there's an opportunity that needs to be taken advantage of. At this level, the owner or the investor is interacting with his internal team, with external teams to decide why we need an asset to be developed, a property to be developed, what kind of property should it be, and how that property is going to meet the needs that have been identified. The scope, size, dimensions, scale of the development is also laid out. This is the level where a brief is developed. That brief, together with an outline of specific objectives that must be met by that facility. Of course, that's part of the brief, goes into the design stage. The designers at their own point, tries to interpret the brief and come up with a series of tiered design process where they come up with first a block plan, stacking plan, they come up with bubble diagram, they come up with all kinds of different, so the level of design development is progressive. First, identify all spaces. Second, decide relationships using bubble diagrams and other instruments like stack plans and block and fit plans. And then develop that into a full set of drawings with dimensions. And by the time they get to that point, they've done what we call programming, where they observe, ask questions, gather data from the users on how the facilities will be used. And then they produce a design that answers all of the requirements and objectives of the owner from the brief, and also all of the requirements from the users through programming. And then they include additional requirements like engineering requirements, all of those construction feasibility, and all of the access issues, transport related issues, supply chain issues that will make that project, feasible or doable. Now, at the design phase, you come out with a set of drawings called the design drawing. You come up with a set of contract documents. Of course, the second thing that comes out is a set of bills of quantities, documents that interprets the design drawings and breaks them down into the various components, what's going to go into them, how they're going to be assembled together in terms of quantities of each one with specifications. And then these two go into the third item, which is the contract documents, right? And once the contract document is ready, you now have a project management plan. It is these 4 items that come out of the design phase and goes into construction. By the time you get into construction, you are interpreting the drawings, you are interpreting the bill of quantities, you are interpreting the contract and implementing them, and you are using the tool called the project management plan to ensure that all the various plans that make up what it takes to deliver on that project are put together. So resource plan, the budget and cost plan, the schedule plan, the quality consideration, the procurement plan, the HR plan, everything comes in into that phase for the construction. For you, the facility manager, be conscious of variations at this level, because when the intentions are right at the planning stage and design has managed to interpret well and a good design has been made, changes during construction can deviate from the original intention, because you are trying to work with what is feasible, what is easy to do, what is attainable. You might end up, pulling away from what was originally intended. And that can become a problem for the end users eventually, because key objectives might be lost in the process of construction. The other thing, major consideration, is all documentation that came into construction needs to be updated to reflect what actually was constructed. That's what we call them as built documentation. So the BOQ was the bill of quantities came in. You need to now develop as built bills of quantities. The design drawings came in, and with design drawings, you create a lot of workshop drawings and construction drawings. But at the end of construction, you need to develop what we call the as-built drawings, right? And then you have all the contract closeout and the project closeout. But at the end of the day, you want to have facilities that align to the original intention from planning through design, so that construction is not to deliver something that is different. The testing and commissioning often are seen as part of construction, but they should actually be 2 different stages of the development cycles on their own. What is testing? Testing is a process of checking the functional parameters of every constructed component or equipment. Functional parameters. If I cast concrete, concrete has to hold certain weights, right? So a functional parameter is how much resistance can that concrete reinforcement hold. If I set up electricity generating system, a functional parameter will be how much power can it produce, under what condition will it work, like temperature, vibration, sound level, and so on. If I'm going to do a testing on any aspect of my construction, I need to know exactly what the normal operating parameters should be, and then I'll do my own test. I record what I'm finding after the construction was done. So in essence, I'm comparing what is to what should be of that functional parameter. That's testing. And that's very different from commissioning. Testing tells you that it works. But when I want to do commissioning, I am going back to what happened during the planning and design stage, where I met the users, I identified what they want to do with the space, I provided all of this design and installations to meet those requirements. Commissioning is not checking for functionality that it works, it's checking for adequacy, that it meets the original intention, that the users are getting what was intended for them. The owner is getting what was intended for him from that asset. That's what commissioning does. So in essence, when I want to do commissioning, I want to check that what was installed is adequate. I have an air conditioner in the training room, and the air conditioner works well. You put your hand on it, it cools very well. But the training room is supposed to hold 40 people in class. If 40 people are in that class and that AC is cooling just as well, will the 40 people feel comfort cooling, or will they feel hot? If they feel hot, the AC might have tested positively in terms of testing, it passed testing, but it has failed commissioning. That teaching room or training room is to hold 40 people actively learning. Now they are not comfortable, even though the AC is cooling and chilling on its own as much as it can. The body heat in the space is overwhelming that AC. Commissioning has what? Failed. And that's why in many cases, you may not be able to do commissioning 100% immediately after construction, because you don't really have what it takes to do that commissioning. So that's why we talk about continuous commissioning, continuously gathering data on the adequacy and documenting gaps between what was intended versus what is being experienced. That is continuous commissioning. And if after some time a facility changes use, or the requirements increase, or you do some major overhauling or remodeling or renovation, and you do another commissioning, this is not a brand new asset, you call that a retro commissioning. A commissioning that is done at certain intervals after a major change has happened to the facility, and so on and so forth. So those are what we do. Every time we check for adequacy, is it meeting the needs of the users, we are doing commissioning. And then we move on to the handover stage, where we actually say we are handing over the property. Handover is a unique or distinct phase of the development cycle. Why? Because handover does not mean give me keys. Handover means that all the documentation that has been generated from the planning to design to construction to testing and commissioning are organized in a structured folder system and handed over to whoever is going to manage the facility. Handover is document handover. Handover is knowledge of what has been built in. Handover is knowledge of what I will need as the maintenance program. So all the O&M plan comes in here, right? All of that snag list that was done during testing and commissioning comes in here. All of those as built documentation that developed during construction stages come in here. All of them are given to you to set up a facility management program. So that's the development cycle. It's a continuous cycle. Why is it a continuous cycle? Every property will get to its lifeline, get to its life cycle end. And we need to either be demolished converted, reconverted, or some other change happens to it. In essence, it gets to the end, and the question is, do we still need that functionality? Do we still need that utility that made us to plan and build in the first place? That's what you are doing at the point of disposal. So if that need is still there, you're asking yourself, should I dispose and get a new one? Should I start a new construction? Whatever the action is at this point, I'm doing a new set of planning, because that is the cycle that must take place in any built infrastructure or facility. And this process used to be, you know, they call the FM to come and take over, right? We're changing that now. The body of knowledge in facility management requires that we have the facility manager involved, contributing inputs at every stage. During the planning stage, the planners, the owners, the investors are making decisions. The construction team needs to have an input. The FM team needs to have an input. The design team is handling design. Construction team has an input. The FM team has an input. Construction is taking place. The construction team takes over from the design team. The planning team, the design team, and the FM are all supposed to have input during the the construction stage being driven by the construction team. This construction team will handle everything from construction to testing to commissioning to handle. And that's why we clearly say, don't fuse all of this together as one stage. There are 4 stages. They'll be driven by the construction team, but the FM will have inputs at every stage. In fact, your testing, commissioning, and handover is the construction team trying to integrate the FM team, share information and data to enable the FM team take over the facilities at the FM stage. And then the planning, the design, and the construction team become the one making inputs once you've taken over the facility for facility management. We call this process operational readiness, the seamless transfer of construction to facility management in a hitch-free manner, considering the main reason why you are building in the first place is the users, the end users. And because you have that consideration for the end users, you need to follow a structured process that focuses on them, that focuses on all the activity that is going to happen over the next 50, 100 years after construction is over, because that is where the real impact is made. And that needs to be considered from planning to design to construction before handover. If this is done properly, you will see a huge savings opportunity because your facility typically will cost you 10% to build, 28% for other repairs and replacement, but operations and maintenance will cost you more than 60%. If you add that 62% to 28%, because O&M and capital renewal costs, they virtually go together. So all of the life cycle costs are 90% after the original construction cost of 10% of the life cycle value. So in essence, we're saying ensure that we have a structured approach so that what is delivered at the end is something that is sustainable, something that is useful and does not create a problem. We have a design build commissioning class that's going to take care of this operational readiness in greater detail. But at this point, I will just tell you that if you are part of a project right now where documents are going to be delivered to you, you've not had any operational readiness planning in place, but you just don't want to be found wanting. You want to be able to hit the ground running. There are some of these documents that you must have in place. You may not necessarily have all of them, but at least have a schedule of assets. What we call the asset register is a listing of all the equipment and components built into the facility with their physical and functional dimensions. You must have the operations and maintenance manuals. The safety procedures are often embedded into those operations and maintenance manuals because You cannot assume that you know how to maintain something when you were not part of those who built or installed it. The builders, installers, those who acquire the asset must obtain and deliver to you the maintenance manuals, which will guide your preparation of your maintenance schedule. At least you should know what parts and components are built into all the various equipment or facilities you are taking over. You must have as built drawings, as built bits of quantities. These are like basic. And then you must have training of those who are going to take over. So that whole process of, oh, they finished building, they should leave some people behind because they're the ones that know what they build so that they can continue to do the maintenance. That is, not necessary. If the proper documentation and processes go on, you don't need to be doing that shortcut. So that's our lesson for today. There is an assessment that goes with this particular lesson. You need to read the material again and attempt these questions as quickly as possible. I'm going to open the floor now for comments, contributions, questions. I'll give you 5 minutes to review your notes, and then I'll come back to you on the discussion session. Thank you. All right. The first hand up is that of Bumi. Bumi, please, you can take the floor now.
Yeah, thank you, sir. When we were on the facility master plan, I saw covenant assessment. So I was wondering, what's covenant assessment?
Okay. Good question. Okay, so what governments usually have what they call zoning and covenants or ordinance as part of town planning. What they do is they have different section of the towns and villages and cities designated for certain purposes, right? So if you are trying to build, let's say you want to build a school now, and you are trying to buy a land, you need to do a covenant assessment of that neighborhood to see whether a school can be permitted for that location. It's a town planning terminology, and you see that is under the master plan. All of those zoning, ordinance, covenant assessment, they're all estate-related terminology for the type of facility, how it fits into the neighborhood. If you notice some areas in Lagos that used to be exclusively residential, like Lekki Phase 1 Admiralty Way, used to be exclusively, it was designed as a residential scheme, right? But over time, there's been a lot of commercial pressure, and the government will have to now change the ordinance and designate certain aspects of that scheme as commercial areas. Once that is done, you will be forced to change your own use of the facility into a commercial and move away into other areas for residential. You can put, for example, a filling station inside a residential estate for that same reason. The government makes these covenant ordinances, whatever other name they call it, they make them law. There are regulations that govern what can be cited in certain locations. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I actually know the process, but I didn't know it's called covenant assessment.
Assessment, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other question, guys?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, welcome.
Sir, my question is, when you were telling us to have about the documents that we need to have in our facilities, but I discovered that in most of the facilities that we manage, maybe for like 10 or maybe over 10 years old, we don't usually have the documentation and the manuals. So in that case, what do we need to do? But like one of the issues I'm battling with now, I am just taking over a facility. So the elevator there, we don't even have any, and this is a new building that they just hand over about 2 months ago. So I'll just call to take over the facility. Now the elevator is malfunctioning. We don't even have any manual regarding that. I have to call another lift vendor to attend to it. So in this case, what do we need to do? Maybe in the case of generator, the pumps and facilities like that.
You see, when there's a missed opportunity like this, where we have already missed the main thing we should have done initially, we have to reverse engineer the process. What that means is we have to put in the effort, create a team or a contract to develop them. Let's start with the asset register. Someone now needs to go nameplate to nameplate documenting the asset register, right? Take it as somebody needs to take tape and okay. Take your O&M manuals. Someone needs to now go take this specific, search their website whether they have the manuals in there, or send them an email to say I have this use your equipment in my facility and I need the O&M manual and so on and so forth. There must be an effort to assemble those documentation together as much as is practically possible. So we get into operation and immediately we start maintaining and operating. We don't have time again. But when we get stuck, we now remember that we don't have the documentation, isn't it? So if you go there and you first of all make the push to get documentation, you cannot get them, start immediately before they start failing to proactively look for documentation and put them in place. Okay, by sir. Creating them yourself, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. And that's a lot of work. When I started out my FM career, I didn't start as a facility manager. I was doing, from architecture school, I was going to be doing measured drawings for people. That's how I started out. I go and do measured drawings. I bring those drawings to them so that they can be able to know the dimensions, the square meters, everything of their facilities. And then later I progressed beyond that. I started helping them to do bill of quantities. It's not when they want to go and paint, they will now be looking for vendors to go and measure and give them square meters for painting. From the drawings I produce, identify all the walls that are wooden panels, the ones that are Sanskrit that are painted with emulsion, the ones that are painted with vinyl paint, identify all of those. And I create a material schedule for them so that if they want to do tiling and they say, oh, it's only the toilet they need to tile, they know how many square meters of tile, what type of tiles are in each of those toilets. This is proactive work. That's what they were paying me for then before I became active in facility management as a full-time profession, because I was still a student, but I was already giving this kind of results to clients as early as 2000 and 2003. And then when I now became a full facility manager, I knew exactly what I needed to have in place. And now that I'm in business, I still provide the same services to people who have, I mean, I've seen high rises, 14, 15 stories built with no documentation. You know what that means? We may have to use a 3D scanner to scan that whole facility into a BIM model so that they can have drawings and have documentation to reference. It will cost them some money, of course. But if you really need to manage that facility in a seamless way without any issues, you will need to invest in those documentation. There was a hand up. Alabade, are you still going to speak?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the Yes, sir. It's highly insightful, sir. I have an observation and I seek clarification on it. Can a facility manager act as a foreman in a construction site?
Now,
And
two.
secondly, sir, you're talking about documentation. Sir?
Go ahead.
Okay, sir. You're talking about the documentation, and part of it are the drawing plans of the as-built. And let me not go into details. How will a facility manager understand the drawing codes that are on the drawing, and what importance will the drawing be for the facility manager, sir? I see clarification on that, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, very good. On the first question about foreman and facility manager, there are two different roles in two different professions in two different industries. A construction foreman is a builder. He's not a facility manager. He builds in such a way that it documents what he's doing so that the facility manager can understand and take over from him. So that's a clear difference between construction foreman and facility manager. If a person who is functioning as a foreman transitions into facility management, he still needs to go for training to become a facility manager because you are moving from one profession to another profession. Okay, that's for the first question. Now, on the second question, you were asking about, prompt me again, what was the context of the second question again?
Okay, so as part of the document that will be handed over to the facility manager, the drawing plan,
Yes.
the drawing plan, the as-built drawing plan will be handed over to him. Of what usefulness is that to the facility manager?
Okay, very good. A facility manager that will manage a facility will know the square meters, will know the materials that are in the building. You cannot develop a maintenance program where you don't even know what materials you are going to be maintaining. Without the drawings, you cannot know what kind of paint you are repainting over if you have to paint. You cannot know what kind of cleaning chemicals to use to clean the floor if you don't know what type of floor and what are the dimensions of those floors. You cannot know what kind of oil to put inside the generator if you don't have the dimension of the generator. You cannot know how many people should be in a space if you don't have the dimension of the space. So you can use space standards to identify what the maximum capacity should be for those spaces. A facility manager has a requirement to know the basic dimension of all its spaces. In fact, one of the things you must know as a facility manager is how many square meters you are managing, who are in which spaces, how many square meters are occupied by each person. It's from your drawing, you will know that. Now, as for the conventions used in drawing symbols, there is always a legend in every drawing. That legend explains every symbol in the drawing. If you see an electrical drawing, you will see a box on one side that tells you if you see this circular, this circle with some star with some shaded portion in it, that's a ceiling fan. If you see this two signs where one goes like this and one goes like this, that's a switch. You understand? It will be explained there. So you can use that to read the drawing. It's very simple. But beyond that, every facility manager needs to have some knowledge on that at that level of the meaning of things in a drawing, because it's still possible to get some of those drawings that do not have those legends. You should be able to understand that, and that's very easy to learn, very easy to learn. Did I answer your question? I hope that answered your question.
Very well, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you. Let me hear from Emmanuel, please. Emmanuel, go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, concerning this documentation of a thing, or let me say handing over. Please, I heard a term today that I've not been able to verify. Snag. Please, what do that snag means and what is the effectiveness? Because it's concerning a building I want to go and manage again. So that was given to me, and they say when you get there, check the snag. But I could not ask that what is snag all about. I say, okay, I know we come to the class this evening, and I want to know about the snag.
Okay. Snags are minor defects that you observe when a construction is complete. The inspection, you go for door handles, whether they are fixed properly, check for ceilings, whether they're installed well, check for piping, whether they're well connected, no leakage. That's what you are doing basically. Being handed over is called snags. You have to document them line by line. You go room by room and identify every snag in every room so that when it's time to go and send a report, you know how to send the report. If you go and tell them, oh, we have paints that are peeling in several places of the building, that does not give them a scope of what was really bad. You have to go living room, peeling paint, suspended ceiling falling over, lights not properly fixed, door handle losing out. You go to a bedroom, peeling paint again. You go to living room, the bedroom too, peeling paint. You go to toilet, peeling paint, POP scratched and have holes in it, nails in the wall. You are going to do that room by room by room, space by space. Every observable defect must be documented. That's snagging.
Wow.
Is that clear? All right. Thank everybody. Please work on your assessment now, just by rereading the material again and answering those 10 questions and submitting them, please. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse